Yep, wrap up. Okay, policy decisions. A competitive landscape, knowing that this gas is here, but it takes a tremendous amount of capital to get that gas out of the ground. And how do we make those economics work in Pennsylvania? Smart regulations, not duplicating regulations, not putting something new in just because it makes us all feel that now that we're protected. There are, if you go to the next slide, these are just some of the regulatory agencies that we're working with on a daily basis, from the withdrawal permits from the basin commissions to the permitting requirements at DCNR, Fish and Boat Commission, Army Corps, USGS, OSHA, EPA. There's quite a few agencies. I've talked about some of these accomplishments, the staffing increases. We've done some detailed analysis of water quality. Continued best practice sharing, I think, has gotten a lot of learning within the agency or within the industry. Legislative and regulatory challenges. I do believe it's a misconception that new regulations are needed to address each issue that's underway right now in the Marcellus development. There are certainly, we need to kick the tires and make sure they apply. It's what we did on the Chapter 78 well casing standards. Where do we need to make sure that Marcellus development is, really handled in those existing rules? But I think by putting a new regulation on absolutely every issue that comes up is not going to get us to any place but the fact that we need more inspectors and more for duplicative regulations. I'd rather see really smart regulations that are going to address these issues head on and have been for a long time. Water withdrawal management. Every use of water is required to have a water management plan that is monitored, that is inspected, that is followed every day on a site, and that water management plan is in place. And I'm sure any one of our members would be glad to share the details of those with you. Water required to produce various sources of energy. I'd be glad to talk about this, but I think one thing that's really interesting, this was produced by the Susquehanna River Basin Commission to understand how much water is being used by different industries. Millions of gallons per day for power generation, industrial, for our public water systems, other mining, and Marcellus shale drilling, and kind of put that in perspective, given what's the product from that water. It's really, obviously, hugely important to take that water that isn't recycled or that doesn't stay down in the well and be able to manage that in a constructive way. Reuse and recycle. Most of our members are now at 100% reuse and recycle. That has not kind of solved a long-term issue about where do we need to put water that maybe isn't reused and recycled. Over the last 9 months, I've seen that go from lower 40%, 30%, up to that 100%, and it's a very good way of handling water. On top of that, acid mine drainage, which may not be as big of an issue here in Philadelphia, is a very big issue across the rest of parts of the rest of the state. Using that AMD water as a source water is a benefit. I'm sure some of you who may have been involved with any industry over time knows that material safety data sheets are required by OSHA to be on site for inspection and available for any use. Every one of these items are included on those material safety data sheets, and I think that's really a key component here. Our industry is very supportive of disclosure. Yes.